Hi everyone, I'm Mihelač and I'm going to present you a preliminary study which has been done with Mihelac Povh. It's about the computational analysis of the musical diversity in 22 European countries. So when trying to compare countries, and then the question is how to do this, and there are several possibilities. Now it can be, for example, comparing the gross domestic product, a widely used macroeconomic indicator, or we can use a gross domestic product per capita. So simple but very powerful indicator indicating if people living in a particular country are getting wealthier. Now we can also use healthcare expenditures or environmental policy. Now, how about culture, more specific music? Is it possible to, let's say, compare countries and try to figure out how diverse are the countries on the basis of their culture, more specifically on music? Now, if using music, then the question is, what are we searching for? Are we searching for the differences in genre, in the way how music is expressed, played, sung? Are we searching for some specific features in the structure of the music in a country? And the second very important question is, which approach are we taking? Is it a manual, a semi-automatic, or automatic approach? Now, if using an automatic computational approach, then of course we have to establish a communication between music and computer. Now, which means that the sound, which is essential for music, has to be in a certain way captured. Now, this can be done either by capturing, let's say, audio signals, or let's say to capture some symbolic representations of sound. Of course, the question is here about the grammar. What are we using? A context-free, a finite states, or an n-grammar? Now, we have decided in this study to observe the musical structure, so some features, and to see whether the country is diverse, because the first statement is that the European countries are just one cultural entity and that they don't diverse. And we have decided also to compare three musical genres: folk songs, children's folk songs, and children's songs. Now, usually folk songs are used, children's folk songs and children's songs not, because they are just called a weird one, because actually they are not considered to be an alone standing genre. Now, we have also decided to use an automatic approach, the computational model information dynamics of music, which hereafter will be referred to as idiom. So before just proceeding further with the study and the results, maybe some, let's say, some explanations about the musical structure. Now, you don't have to be a musician to understand, because the graphics shows perfect what I'm talking about. So I have here a melody without lyrics. I have here some 15 notes, which I will call simply events. And then, as you can see, we have 15 events from E1 to E15. Some notes are the same, some notes are different. And then we have also, let's say, pitch, which we can see that some of them are higher or lower. So what can we observe when just looking at this sequence? So we can, let's say, in event one or just in another event, we can observe some features of this sound, of this event. Let's say we can see what is about the pitch. Is it low? Is it high? So evidently this is, and obviously this is lower than this one. And this one is higher than this one. We can also observe the duration. Now in music, let's say some notes, some events which are written in this way are longer in duration than, let's say, this one or this one, which is the shortest one. And this one is the longest one. And we can also look between what is the relation between two events. So we are talking about the interval, and we see that here is a huger gap between E1 and E2 than between E3 and E4. What can we also observe? We can observe the contour. So if I look from E1 to E15, I see here that some nodes, and the pitch is actually just establishing a contour, which is going up and down, and it is here just finished. And then I can look about the tessitura. So tessitura is the pitch range, actually the range of the melody. So what is the lowest and the highest note in this melody? It's not only about looking separately for an event. I can, let's say, in this event or in just another one, look about the cross product. So I can look to pitch and the duration at the same time. And then in this case, I'm talking about the cross product. Now, maybe also some words about idiom. So idiom is a computational program, a model which is used widely for different tasks and has shown to be very successful in just showing the diversity between cultures. It is based on n-grammar models. However, it uses a variable n-gram model, which means that it varies the order for each context adaptively during the prediction of forthcoming events. Now, this is enabled by incorporating the interpolated smoothing strategy. Now, this strategy allows that all possible orders contribute to each predicted distribution. And by using the escape strategy, we admit distributions and include previously unseen symbols. Idiom is using also two models which are used for simulating the listener's perception. So by using the short-term model, so STM model, we are simulating the listener's short-term experiences of music in a current listening process. And then there is the long-term model, which is simulating the listener's lifetime experience of music. About the data, we have used 2,184 songs, so this is our data, without lyrics from 22 European countries from 3 genres. So now here are the 22 countries. And these are the genres, so the folk songs, the children folk songs, and the children's songs. The procedure. We have aborted the songs without lyrics because idiom doesn't process the lyrics as it doesn't process also the loudness and the timbre of a sound. And when the songs are implemented in the system, idiom learns incrementally about the musical syntactic structure and its sequential regularities. And each event in a sequence is observed. 2 measures are used, so the entropy and information content, which has shown to be more stable and is widely also used, let's say, in trying to find out the diversity between cultures. We are using also 12 viewpoints, and these are some functions which are implemented in idiom. Now, we can understand these functions for the observation of the musical structure, and each viewpoint observes one specific, let's say, feature, pitch or interval or tessitura, which we have already talked about. In content, so we have calculated the information content for 12 viewpoints in steps. So we computed the mean value of each viewpoint across all the events in the songs. And then we have averaged these mean values of each viewpoint across all the songs for each genre in each of the 22 countries. So now this means that we have obtained 36 vectors, 12 vectors for folk songs, 12 for children folk songs, and 12 for the songs for each country. We used also the analysis of variance and cluster analysis. As you can see, so the results, we have obtained statistically significant manner of differences in genres between countries. And the multiple pairwise comparisons to determine how the 3 genres in 12 countries differ shows the use of these 12 viewpoints, and we can see that there are significant differences. Only it is not found in tessitura and in the pinned fifth. So tessitura is the range of the melody, so the lowest and the highest tone, which means that actually all the countries uses more or the same range. And this is about the first tone in the melody. So is it starting with the first tone in a melody or the second or the third? Now, this is actually more connected with the tonality, and as this presentation doesn't allow some more explanations, I will just stick close to this first tone in the tonality, so we can see that more or less all the countries are using the same way of this first note. When using a cluster analysis, and so the most common non-hierarchical cluster analysis, we see that we have obtained here some clusters. We have used Euclidean distance and used all the three genres conjoined, because the results when using the genres separately didn't yield good results. Now, as we can see, the clusters are more or less very promising. We see here a cluster in which countries which are expected to be very close, geographical and in the culture, are here. And also, let's say, Sweden and Norway and Denmark are also here in the country. We have used also the hierarchical clustering because no particular organization or structure within the clusters has been given. So we used also the Euclidean distance as the distance metric to estimate the pairwise similarity between the 22 countries, and the Ward's minimum variance method as a linkage method. Now, we can see step-by-step merging of bottom-up process, and where merging levels correspond to the measure of dissimilarity between two groups, between countries. Now, the dendrogram has been obtained by using also 22 countries and conjoining three genres: folk songs, children's folk songs, and children's songs. We see here some dotted lines, vertical lines, which depict the most salient clusters in this dendrogram. So we have here 5 clusters. And at the top of the dendrogram, we see the partition into 2 clusters. The first one, which includes the cluster 1, and the second one, which includes the clusters 2, 3, 4, and 5. Actually, plausible. It reflects the coexistence of 2 opposites, 2 empires, the Habsburg Empire, afterwards Austro-Hungarian Empire, and the Ottoman Empire. So let's say this could be the Ottoman Empire and all the other countries, let's say more included in the Habsburg Empire. Now, a closer look to these countries included in these 2 empires shows very turbulent turnovers within 5 centuries, being under one or another empire, or being governed at the same time, even by 2 or more power states. So maybe some conclusions and the future works. So we have found differences between 22 European countries in the musical structure, although it was said that they belong more to one European huge entity. And we have found also differences between the 3 genres. Questions, of course, remains, because if we look a little bit back, then we can see that there are some expected close, let's say, linkage between countries. So, okay, this Croatia, Serbia, Bulgaria, and Greece, this is expected to be found in a cluster, but it is very questionable why Portugal is in a separate cluster and why is Spain in another cluster, although these countries are geographically very close. And how comes that, let's say, Slovenia is here in the cluster together with Latvia, although these countries are very far distance. Now, these questions remain open and are just remain for future work. So maybe some conclusion, two main conclusions, the country diverse and the three genres which were also here analyzed also differ in the way how they are used. So this is for our presentation. Thank you for watching us and being with us in this presentation.